Hello and welcome to Simple Photoshop Projects with Adobe Education Leader Sean Glumace. For our very first Photoshop project, we're going to walk you through how to set up a document, work with some of the tools, and actually build something that you maybe can use. So starting off in Photoshop, we want to make sure you have the same layout that we have on screen. So we're going to go up to Window and go to Workspace and make sure you have Graphic and Web selected. That will give you the interface that we're looking at right now. Once you've done that, we'll do File, New Document. And as I go through this, I'll be using the menus to show you where things are, but I will go over some of the key commands as well. So once we have a new document window open, let's name it. So I'm going to call it My Nameplate. The document type is going to be a custom size, and we're going to do 8 inches wide by 3 inches tall. So you need to make sure we have inches selected, not pixels. We don't want 8 pixels by 3. That's a very small document. So we're working in inches. And the resolution is going to be 300 pixels per square inch. And what that means is it's 300 dpi, or dots per square inch. If we were going to print this off a professional printer, even a home printer, a color one, we want to have a high resolution. So 300 dpi is what we work with. If we were working on the web and just building this, let's say for a website or social media, we would work at 72 pixels per inch. The color mode is RGB, and RGB stands for red, green, and blue. It's what we see electronically in color on the screen. If we were working in print, we would be converting to C, M, Y, and K. That's cyan, magenta, yellow, and K is key, or we call it black. Right now, though, we'll be working in RGB. The background, we have it as white, but we can change it to transparent, black, or set another color. So the background, or our paper, our canvas that we're working on, we want to work with white. We're not going to mess with the advanced settings here, but it shows us that this is an image size of about 6.18 megabytes. This isn't going to be a huge file in the end, but we do want to start off on the right foot with the right file sizes. So 8 inches wide, 3 inches tall, and 300 pixels per square inch for resolution. You'll name it, and we're ready to go. So we'll hit OK, and we have our first document open. This is our canvas. The first thing we're going to do is make sure you have your rulers turned on. If they're not, we'll go under View and make sure the checkbox next to rulers is on. Now I want to set a few guides, and normally I don't work with too many guides on screen. I'm used to working in Photoshop and Adobe Illustrator and other software programs. But for what we're doing, I want to have guides in to help align things and center things. And when we do layout here, it'll make our life much easier, and you'll have better margins and other things that we'll talk about. So we need to set up our document. And the first thing we're going to do is go under View, and we're going to do New Guide Layout. So we choose it. It'll open up our window here. And what this does is you can see these blue guidelines. It gives us a margin, and the margin's set at 1/4 of an inch, 0.25. We're going to leave that, and this is going to be helpful for us. This is the margin on the outside, and then on the inside it's going to be our live area. So if we were printing this, we want to make sure none of our artwork that's important or our text gets too close to the edge. These margins allow us to have a visual way of knowing where to stop. So we're going to hit OK, and that will drop in our guides. Then we're going to go back up under View, and we're going to do a new guide. So we're going to put one guide in at a time. The first one is the horizontal guide. So if we look at our size, if you remember, it's 3 inches tall by 8 inches wide. So we want to cut this in half. So 1.5 inches is right in the middle here. So we're going to do 1.5 and hit OK. And you see we have a new guide in. That's the halfway point for the height of our layout. Now we're going to put one more in, and we'll do new guide. This time vertical. If we take half of the difference here, that's 4 inches. Hit OK. We now have our center point. Now there are automatic guides and things will snap to as we draw them. We can also lock these down because if you use the move tool, and we're going to be using the move tool a lot to move things around. So V on the keyboard if you want to just pull it up with your keyboard. The move tool, if you click on one of these guides, you can see we can start moving them. And I'm not going to. We can also pull new guides from the ruler. And you can put them back as well. But I want to make sure we don't accidentally do that and move it out. If you do make a mistake, you can do Edit, Undo, or Command or Control Z. And it will put it back. But we want to lock them. So under View, we have Lock Guides. We'll lock them. And now I can't accidentally move them. If you notice, it says we're currently on a background layer. We can't move that. That's fine. I'm going to hit Cancel, because we want to leave that white background alone. Another window we're going to use a lot is the Layers palette down here in the bottom right. These are all of our objects. In Photoshop, we have objects that sit on top of each other. So if it's type, it has its own layer. If it's a square or a circle, it has its own layer. If it's an image we bring in, it has its own layer. And so all these things get layered together, and it allows us to add depth, move things around, and apply things to each of those layers that if this was a single image that was flat, it would be impossible. So the Layers palette's very important. The Move tool, as I said, we're going to use a lot today. And we're also going to use the Type tool. As you can see, we have lots of other tools here. We're not going to use all of these. As we go through our series, though, we will start using each of these individually in each project. And if you watch these videos in order, you'll notice that we always reuse the same tools from the previous one and build upon them with new things. So let's start laying this out. And what we're going to do is use our Shape tool. And it's probably the little rectangle for you. It's towards the bottom. It's the rectangle tool or U on the keyboard. And we could draw different shapes. So rectangle tool, rounded rectangle, ellipse tool, polygon tool, line tool, and we can do custom shapes as well. We're really only going to be working with the rectangle and ellipse tool today. But that doesn't mean you can't try different things as we work along. And I do encourage you to, if I pick something, try something different here. This is your document. This is your creativity. This is your work that you're putting out. And it's fine to follow along with me and to do everything like I do to practice, but I really encourage you to try different things, because that's how you learn in Photoshop, is try all the different things that are here. So we want to draw a rectangle for our colored background. So the first thing we're going to start with is the background. Now mind you, we have a layer called background, but that's the white paper, that's the white canvas. So I like to start off with drawing a rectangle. Up at the very top are all of our options for that rectangle. So it's a shape. You can see we can do paths and pixels, but let's not worry about that right now. We want to have shape. Then there's a fill, and if you click on the fill, it gives us recently used colors and these other color palettes that are here. And I want you to stick to these color palettes right now. So we have pure and we have light. These are preset color palettes. So if you've gone through color theory, these work together. So here's some darker colors. Or we can go really dark or darker. And you can see they're complementary. They work together well. But if you really want to pick your own color, you can come up here and click on the color picker. And you can pick any color that you want in here. If I hit OK, we get, in this case, a brown. But I'm just going to go off, let's say darker here. And I'm going to start with a blue in the background. So if I come over, and I'll start over here just because this is in the way, but if you click once, it'll go away and it'll say create rectangle. I'll hit cancel. I want to draw my rectangle. Anytime with these tools, if you click once, you'll usually get an option to create with it. What I want to do is take my cursor, click, and drag across. If you notice, I don't go right to the edge. I kind of go off. I bleed off. I like to have that little bit of extra bleed on the edges. I'll let go, and we get a blue rectangle. If we look over here under properties, it tells us what we just drew. So it says the width and the height in pixels. but we also have the fill type. We have strokes. We have all this other information. We can even round the corners. We're not going to get too deep into this, but every object has properties in Photoshop. And so this is where we can look and see what they are. But down at the bottom here, we have layers, and we have rectangle 1. That's not a very good description. So I'm going to call this blue background. So I clicked once, and I'm typing out the name. So we can rename things. Sometimes double click, and we can rename them. If I click on the layer, you'll notice it selects the layer. What I want you to do is grab the Move tool and make sure under the options for the Move tool that Auto Select is turned on and Show Transform Controls is. If they're not, I can't select this. I can move it around. I'm sorry, I moved that, so I undid it, Control Z. But we want to do Auto Select and we want to do Show Transform Controls. That allows us to change the size by grabbing one edge. I can put it back. And anytime you change an object in Photoshop, even if I make this bigger on the outside, you have to double click to set it. So if I change it again, I have to double click. So we have our background. Let's draw another box. We're going to put a box inside these guides. So I'll grab my rectangle tool again. I'm going to start right here where the two guides meet. And if you click and drag, you'll notice it snaps to. See how it snaps right to the guidelines. So now we know it fits perfectly in there. And I'll let go. Well, it doesn't look like I drew anything. Well, you can see one little handle here. Well, that's because I drew a rectangle that's blue on top of blue. So what I can do now is under layers, if I double click on the thumbnail right next to my new rectangle, it will pull up the color picker. And I can change the color on the fly. So I'm going to go with I don't know, let's see, maybe a green? No, let's go with a light blue. About right there. This is where, when you watch my videos, I'm not going to sit here and tell you exact colors. I like to play, and you'll see me do this a lot. While I'm talking, I'll be moving things around. It's how I work. It's how I'm creative. You can see we have a contrast here. We have the darker blue and the lighter kind of aquamarine greenish color here. And we're going to make some major changes to this. So this is not the final color that we're working with. So I'm going to call this one middle rectangle. There's a reason for that. This is going to end up in the middle of this sandwich we're building. So we have a blue background. We're going to be putting things on top. We're going to have a circle in the middle too for layout. And then we're going to put some type over this. But for right now, it's in the middle. And these two things, you know, they work together well. But there's a lot more we could do. So I'm going to grab my Move tool. I always go back to my Move tool. It's kind of my default tool because I can come in and you can see here I can click. You can even rotate. Now mind you, I don't want to do that. You notice I double clicked. Control Z or undo or Command Z on the Mac. So you'll get used to Control Z. It's an important key command. I'm going to use it a lot because I do make mistakes. We all do. And I change things a lot as well. This isn't a prescribed, we're going to go step by step through this. I kind of do this free form, and I've always done it this way. So that's just a warning if you're watching all the videos. So let's start with the foreground here, our middle rectangle. It's above the other, so it's sitting on top. If we were looking at this as a sandwich, it's like the bread on the bottom, and now we've just put a slice of meat or cheese. And now we need to start adding stuff to this. And we're going to start with the middle rectangle. I have it selected. I'm going to click on the little F at the bottom, and that stands for FX, but add a layer style. I'm going to click on it, and we get all these options. We have a blending option, we have bevel and emboss, stroke, inner shadow, inner glow, satin, all these fun things we could start working with, but I want to put a stroke on this. I want to put a stroke around it. So I'm going to select stroke, and this opens up our layer style palette. I'm going to put it right in the middle here because we can see the edges. And this stroke You may only have one stroke here. And let me kind of get back to where you probably have it. I've been working in Photoshop on other projects, so it remembers some of my previous things there. So I have a stroke, and you probably just have one as well. Don't worry, we're going to create more than one here. And you can see my size is 13 pixels. I can move this back and forth, and I'm on the outside. And one thing that'll happen is you get these rounded corners on position outside. I'm going to go inside on this. You can see it moved inside. And there's a reason for that. I want to be inside because we're going to add other things, and I don't want my stroke overlapping anything that's over here. So let's bring it down in size to, I don't know, let's say 15, 20 pixels. You can type in the number as well. So let's do 20. Position is inside. Fill type is a color. So what this means is the position of this stroke is inside. It's inside the box. Blend mode, there's all kinds of different blend modes. I'm not going to get into those right now. Let's just, that's a whole other video for another day. Opacity, though, I can change the opacity. Basically the transparency here, to simplify it. It shows through the background. The green, the aqua green is showing through the blue. Well, I want it solid. Overprint is something we use. Don't turn it on. This actually has to do with printing. It's blend stroke against current layer contents. Leave that alone. We're not going to be dealing with that right now. But the fill type is a color. We can also do gradients. You can see from black to white. And you can also put in patterns. But for right now, we're going to do color. And this, I show you these things because I want you to play. I want you to try. There's nothing here that you can break. All you have to do is if you pick something, you go, oh, what did I do? What did I do? You just undo the stroke. Or just go back and try something else. So be adventurous. Be willing to take the leap because you're not going to break anything. So let's pick a color. I'm going to pick white. So we're going to have a white border in here. But I want a second border right here. I want white and then maybe another blue. So how do we do that? Well, we go to the stroke and we hit the plus sign. And we now have a second stroke, but they're the same. So you're not seeing any difference because they're both sitting on top of each other. So if I change the color to a blue, that's more like a purple, but it's a little darker right in here. Hit OK, nothing changes. But watch what happens when I change the size. Because now this stroke is sitting underneath the other, but it's bigger, so it shows through. So I can create a smaller stroke right inside of it. That looks good. I'm happy. Then I want to put a drop shadow. If you come down and click on drop shadow, you can see it. I need to move this up. It adds a drop shadow. Now the angle is off a little. It's 90 degrees. That means the light is up here and shining straight down and throwing a shadow. So let's go over to about 120. I may have to type it in. That looks better now. I have a drop shadow over here, but the distance is too much. So let's bring the distance in. You'll notice the opacity is in 100. If you go to 100, it's a really dark drop shadow. I don't want a dark drop shadow. So, it was around 60-ish, maybe even in the 50s somewhere. The distance, let's bring it in some. And you can see as it changes here, it gives you a preview. Even the size. See the edges get harder? If you want a really hard edge drop shadow, you can do 0. We'll go a little lighter here. The distance is good. Now we can change the quality of the contour, but I'm not going to get too deep into that. I just want you to play here. So I'll hit OK. And even though we haven't done very much, we have a lot going on. We have depth now. This is sitting on top, but it's floating. We're getting a drop shadow. We've done a double stroke on this. And the reason we do this in the first project is to show you that while Photoshop can look overwhelming, just right over here, there's so much going on. There's so many things. And this is not even all of the windows that we can open and work with. That taking a slow approach and thinking about what you're going to do and using the tools that you know and adding new ones in, you can get a lot out of Photoshop in a very simple way. So let's look at the blue background now. If you want to close all of these effects, and you'll notice here we now have effects underneath our layers. I can turn them all off. I can turn off one and not the other, and kind of just work my way through here. Now I want to keep all of them. So over here on the right, you'll see a little arrow. I can close that and they won't be in the way anymore. So blue background. Same thing, I'm going to select the layer and go over to my FX, and I'm going to do a, no, we don't want to do a stroke. We want to do a pattern overlay. And look what we get. I turn on the pattern overlay and we have patterns we can work with. If you click on the little arrow, you're probably going to have 3 in here. Trees, grass, water are probably the only ones that you have right now. Hopefully you have them. If not, choose whatever's in there. I'm going to pick grass, and I'm going to select some grass here. Now, that kind of works. I like it. But what if I brought the opacity down a little? To, I don't know, about 50%. We can even do blending modes. And I don't want to get too deep into these, but select them and see what happens. Color burn, linear burn, darker color. You can do an overlay. Now I'm going to go back to normal, but you can play with it. You're not going to hurt anything. You can reset to default too, if you want to. Now you can change the scale and the angle. I'm not going to do that, but you can play with it. I'm just going to choose the grass at about 50% opacity. But I'm not done here. I'm going to select gradient overlay, and I'm going to click the checkbox. Now you'll notice nothing showed up here. And this is something I've watched students struggle with. They're like, wait a minute, where's all my settings for gradient overlay? Well, you still have patterns selected, even though you checked the box here. You need to click on gradient overlay, and it will change. And oh boy, we got a lot of settings here. Don't be overwhelmed. We're going to keep this simple. What we're doing is it's a normal with an opacity. You may have 100%. If 100%, everything's gone, right? Well, let's bring the opacity down to like 30, 40%. And let's pick a gradient. So we've got lots of different gradients to choose from here. You should have pinks and reds and oranges and basics. You can create your own, but we're not going to do that right now. What I'm going to do is let's pick some blues. I'm going to pick, I don't know. Ooh, I like that one. Kind of adds a nice light to dark. You can even maybe bring the opacity up a little. It's a nice pattern in the background. So I've taken the grass, which is an image, and now I've applied a gradient overlay, and I've gotten something completely different than grass. So you can mix and match these things, even just built into Photoshop. We're not even bringing anything in from the outside. We're only working in Photoshop on this project. I like that. I'm going to hit OK, and we have our background done. So let's do the same thing now for the middle rectangle. I don't want this as color flat. So let's open up the FX, which I had closed. And if you double click on the little FX, the eye, it will reopen our layer style palette. Or you can always go down and click on the FX and pull it up. So let's do a pattern overlay. Ooh, look at that. Let's do a water. That's like a pool. I like the pool. Now it's a little too much. So let's bring the opacity down on this. And if you'll notice, I'm staying within my color palette. Naturally, I'm just kind of working within these blues. And this is something that you learn over time with color theory and I'll say my gut. But don't worry, if you have all these wild colors going on, great. I love to see that type of thing. So don't think that if it doesn't look exactly like this, don't worry. I want you to experiment. I want you to play. I want it to be more about you than me. So I like that. Let's see what happens when we add a gradient overlay. And that did not work the way I wanted to, but it's okay. let's try some of these other ones. And I'm not liking this. Well, maybe right there. I don't know. I can just come in here and turn it on and off. And you know something? I don't think I need a gradient overlay. I think that's too much. I like what I have with my pattern. Looks good. We'll hit OK. And from this to this, even though it may feel like a long time, if we were just going through, this is maybe a minute or two of changes. We've had to go through them, step by step, which takes more time. But you can see how quickly we can bring things together in Photoshop, even with just two simple rectangles, and start putting something together that we can use. And the reason we're doing this again is I don't want you to be afraid of Photoshop. I don't want you to sit here and go, I don't know what to do. Once you have that empty canvas, you just start putting paint on it. I mean, that's the only thing I can say is it's just like painting or drawing. You've got to start somewhere. I brought those guidelines in. That gave me structure. Then I brought in these objects. That gave me somewhere to put my ideas. And then I started working through the layer effects. So you can tell I'm very passionate about this. I'm passionate about the art side of it as well. And it's no different than a paintbrush. It's an electronic one. It's got a lot of bells and whistles. But at its core, it's a tool. So don't be afraid of the tool and use it to express yourself. So we're not done just yet. We need to personalize this. And I want to put something else in the middle here. I want to put a circle. And then we're going to apply a few more layer effects. We'll do it a little faster this time. So I'm going to go to the ellipse tool. And if I place my ellipse tool right here and start dragging, I end up with kind of a funny circle. And it's hard to figure out if it's perfectly round. I want a perfectly round circle. This is where the shift key comes in. So if you click and start dragging and drawing, you're like, uh-oh, this isn't what I wanted. It's an oval. Maybe you want an oval. But if you hold the shift key down, it will constrain this circle. Now the problem is I want it right in the middle though. So I still have my finger on the shift key. If you hold the Alt key, or the Apple key on the Mac, but Alt key on the PC, watch what happens. It grows from center. So I'm going to draw a circle right from the middle until, I want to give a little bit of a margin at the top and bottom. So I'm going past those guidelines. You can see the circle there. And I'm going to let go of the mouse. And we end up with a perfectly round circle right in the middle. Now, if you ended up drawing off to the side, you could take the Move tool, take it, and it will snap to the middle. See those purple lines? That's why we have guidelines. Boom, right in the middle. So I'm going to come over and change the name to Circle. And now, let's apply some layer effects. So down at the bottom, we have our FX. And let's start with a stroke. I'm going to kind of put this off to the side, sorry. Actually, I'm going to do it this way so we can see the edge here. I like the stroke, 20 pixels, looks good. So let's turn on the inside stroke. If you notice, the settings came over from our other one. And that's what I wanted. I wanted to have the white on the outside and the blue on the inside. So you can see here, it just picked up the same settings. I can change them if needed, but I'm going to stay with that. Then, I'm not going to do a pattern overlay on this, but let's do a gradient overlay. And I'm going to go into the blues, and I'm just going to pick something here. Now, mind you, you're not seeing much, but if I bring the opacity up some, looks good. Maybe a lighter blue. This is where you got to play a little. I plan these things out before I do a video, but I can tell you right now my original that I did on my own, just to walk through this so I knew what we were going to do, looked different than this. Same objects, but I ended up with different stuff. I like this one. I want you to pick something. Let's try a pattern overlay. Oh, look at that. I think that works. I mean, that was just, we turn it on. Maybe we bring up the opacity a little. Maybe we'll try the other water. Yeah, there we go. Maybe the opacity a little higher. And I like what I see there, so I'll hit OK. And I'm missing something. The drop shadow. I already have a drop shadow here, so why not another drop shadow here so we get it at the bottom? So I can come back to my layers, and I can either go down to the FX and do drop shadow, or I can double click on effects and go to drop shadow. It picked up the same drop shadow, so I don't have to worry about it. I like that. It adds a little bit of depth to the whole thing. There's something we haven't done that's real important. We need to save this file. So we'll do a file, save as, and I have a folder on my desktop called First Photoshop Project. And I'm going to save it as my nameplate, photoshop.psd. Now, a PSD file is a Photoshop document, PSD. This is the file extension for Photoshop. It'll automatically save it. It saves the layered file. Later, we'll export this as a JPEG for you to either turn in as an assignment or to save and use somewhere else. But the PSD file is the original. It's the one we can come back and change things. And you can see how quickly we can change effects. Maybe we did this for a client and they go, I wanted red. Well, we can come in and just start changing everything to red. So the PSD file is the original. It's the most important part of the process in terms of delivering and having the files stored. A JPEG or other file format flattens it. Then we can't change it anymore. It's a finished. It's like we made a photocopy of it, and we can't. A photocopy of a photocopy is not going to work well. This is the original. So we'll hit save. We now saved our file. You can see up here, nameplate.psd. It tells me where it is as well. And the last thing we're going to do is we need some type. We need a name here. I need my name across this. I need your name across it so I know who did it. So I'm going to grab the type tool. This is the horizontal type tool, but you can see it. You type out, in their case, Adobe. Now, font size. So right off the bat, I click, and up here at the top, we have Impact Regular. This is the last font I used. Over here under Character is all of our character as well. I just want you to work up here. It simplifies it down just to a handful. So it's going to start typing on center, which is fine. The text is going to be white, which is fine. We'll change that color as we go. But I want you to choose impact, and you could type in the word impact. And chances are you have it. And the reason I'm picking this font is everyone's got it. It shipped with the Microsoft package a long time ago, and it's just on everyone's computers. It is a sans serif, that means no serif font. It's used a lot. You'll probably recognize it. And it's a very heavy font. It's a blocky font. So I like to use it for these types of projects. I can select it, or you can use the pull down. Now, you're not going to have as many fonts as I do. I have lots and lots and lots and lots of fonts, especially lettering fonts and things like that. So like all of these are comic book lettering fonts. I don't want to use those because you don't have them, but we do have impacts somewhere in here. Much easier to type it in. So if you know the name of your font, you can. So this is the family. The face is regular. Other faces may be bold or italic. This font only has one. It's regular. And the font size is pretty small. 10 point. It's going to be a little tiny. So let's start around 48. So when I start typing, I'm just going to click once anywhere here. Don't click and drag. Don't draw a box and type in it. We want to type on a line. So I'm going to click once. I'm going to do it right in the middle here because it's a line center. That means we're going to type from the center out. If you type from the left or right, it's fine. We can just use it. So I'm going to click once. And it puts lorem ipsum in. So it's the fake Latin for just whatever. And just put something in there. And I'm going to type my name in all caps. There's my name. If you notice, it came from the middle. I'm going to come up and select my move tool. And we get a bounding box. Now I could sit here at my type tool and go, 110 points, or 50 points, or 60, or 100. I can't ever get this right. This is not Adobe InDesign. InDesign's for typesetting. Illustrator is more for typesetting. Photoshop, I look at this as an object. And I can move it around. Once again, the Move tool. Auto selects on, show transform controls. This one's important right now. If you notice over here under your layers, it takes the type and names it, so we don't have to rename type layers. But if I grab, I'm going to put this over off to the side here and grab one corner, I can really mess up my type, right? We don't want that. So undo, Command Z. I'm going to hold the Shift key, click on one corner, and scale it up. Now I don't want to get too close, so I can scale it back a little. I'll double click. And you'll notice it snaps to those guides. This is why we brought those guidelines in. We snapped a guide. So we have our text, and we're going to add some layer effects, right? But before we do that, I don't want to just have text straight across. I don't know. It just, you know, I need to add something, a little pizzazz here. So I'm going to grab my type tool. And if you click and drag across your type, you can select it. Or what I do, triple click. Selects it all. Now up under the options, there's a little type on a line here, on a curved line. It's the warp tool. Create warped text. So I'm going to click on it. It opens up a nice little window. And we can do things with our type. We can make it arc. We can make it lower arc, upper arc. You can do an arch, bulge, shell lower, do the flag where it's nice and wavy. You got all these different options here. Fisheye, squeeze, twist. But I'm going to keep this simple. I'm going to go back to arc. So play with it. That's why it's here. And then you can change the settings on each of these. And I'm going to bring this way down to about only maybe, I don't know, 15%. And I'm going to change one setting here. I'm going to hit OK. I want to change one thing because you're not going to have any leading set yet. Or, I'm sorry, tracking, not leading. So I want to make it as close to what you see. And look at that. My text is now warped. And you can play with it. All you have to do is select the type tool, select the text, and you can go back and change this. There's a vertical. Whoa, yeah, that's not going to work. I'm going to be a little conservative here and just go around 15%. I think any more than that, I can maybe go to 20 max, but 15-ish is good to me. Play. And you're going to hear me say this over and over. I'm a broken record. Play with it. Try different things. I'm going to hit OK. Grab my Move tool. And let's make this pretty. So we're going to hit the FX. And I'm going to start with stroke. Now, not much happening, right? Well, that's because the stroke is on the inside. Let's go outside this time. Whoa. That works. A little too much, I think. But I think we need to do a gradient overlay first. So I'm going to select gradient overlay, and we'll come back to the stroke. None of this is in linear order at all, even though I'm kind of doing it that way. Play, as I said before. So let's do the gradients. I don't know. I think blue's just not enough here. I'm going to go all the way to 100% opacity. It needs to pop a little more. What do you think? So I'm going to look at the dark stuff. There we go. That's more to my liking here. That one. It looks good. Sorry. I have to move things around a little bit to see. That looks good. I'm happy with that. If I do a pattern overlay, nothing happens, does it? I turned it on. Where is it? Opacity. That's because the gradient is 100%. So if I have the pattern overlay on, which I just turned on, it's the same one as this background. Whoops. Well, we could go with a straight color. Hey, happy accidents sometimes, Bob Ross would say. Well, you never know. You know what that gives me an idea? Let's go into the reds. Kind of like that. Unexpected. And that's important. I'm glad that happened. You know, I'm not going to do a gradient. I'm going to turn that off. I'm going to go to my color. And I'm going to go into the reds here and go kind of a dark burgundy and just see how that works. It pops. I think I'm going to stick with it. Now, the pattern overlay's on. I have a color overlay. I turned off my gradient. Let's, I'm going to bring the opacity down a little bit. Not much, 90%. And look what happens. That pattern I turned on, which was the same, starts to show through. It's just a slight pattern. I don't want a lot here. And I think that one works. I mean, I can even try the grass. Ooh, that kind of gives me a neat look. That's a little too much with that. But even the grass works. You know something? Let's try the trees. Not as much of a pattern with the trees. I kind of like the grass. It matches our background. You know something? I'm going to go with that. So I have a pattern overlay with the grass on, and a color overlay in a burgundy red at 90%. Yeah, I like that. So let's go back to the stroke. I'm going to leave the white. I like the white here. Let's turn on the other stroke. And oh boy, it remembered. Well, the problem is you can't do inside on type. This is the mess you get. So let's go outside. And I like that. I like the white, and I like the blue. It matches. It kind of just bleeds together. I'm happy with that. And let's put a drop shadow. I turned it on. Where is it? Well, remember, the strokes are on the outside. So they're covering up the drop shadow. So for this drop shadow, we're going to have to open the distance way up. And you can see here, we're going to kind of blur this out. We don't want a hard one. So it's there. It adds depth. Without the drop shadow, it gets a little flat, doesn't it? Drop shadow adds something. I like that. I'm happy. We'll hit OK. Is it a masterpiece? You know, I'll leave it at that. There's a few little things here. Now, my C, it's not coming together here. That does not look good. Got a little bit of a problem in here. So let's fix that. I'm going to go back to the stroke under my layer and double click on it. And we want the white one. So let's open this up just a little more. Ooh, there we go. See the difference? Boop. But now I've lost the blue. So, you know, let's get it right at about 21. This time I'm going to have to type it. I'll do 23. That closed it up. I like that. But let's reopen up this stroke of the blue just a little bit bigger. There we go. That's tough there too. I'm not liking that either. But I'm going to leave it alone. It's close enough for right now. And I'm pretty happy with that. If I wanted to change, I'll take my type tool, triple click, come up under my warp text. I can play with this a little and just see what we end up with. Maybe I'll warp it just a little more. Right around 20%. I'll grab my move tool and I'll bring it down. Now, do run into a problem. It's touching here and here. So I can fix that with the move tool. I'll grab one edge, hold down the shift key. I'll make it just slightly smaller and reposition. Maybe just a little more. There we go. I'll double click. I'll bring it down. And I'm happy now. I can tweak and play with this all day long, and I encourage you to do that. Play with it. you're never done. We're never done with these things. This is good enough for now. Under my layers, I'm going to collapse down my layer effects, so then I just have my layers here. We only have 4 objects here. We have 4 objects. We have the blue background, and you can turn the eyeballs off here. We have the middle rectangle, we have the circle, and we have the text. And if we turn off all the layer effects, sorry, it takes a second here just to turn them all off. At its core, that's all we've created. And I like this project because it's really simple in terms of tools. We've only used 2 tools, the Move tool and the Type tool, and their options. We made a slight change over here maybe in the character palette. We didn't change any properties, and we worked in the layer palette with the layer effects. And we ended up with something pretty nice. And all of yours are great. I can tell you that right now. I just know it. We want to see it. You created it. We want to see it. So we're almost done here. We need to save it. And now, I did a file save, not a save as. We've already saved it. And if you haven't saved it yet, now's the time to save it. Save it as a PSD. Now we want to export it. So we're going to do File, Export As. Not Quick Export as Ping, but File, Export As. And this is something you're going to do in every project. If you're in a class and you're following these videos, or you're being used in another class, you're going to have to save your file. So this is something you need to get used to. You're going to save it, and you're going to export it. So saving it as a PSD file. Exporting is into another format that can be used differently on the web or anywhere else. So we're going to do, in this case, JPEG. Now 100% quality is great. We really don't need that. Let's go to 80. It'll just make the file sizes smaller, and if you're in a class, your teacher will love it. I like it when I teach. Look at the difference. It's now 700 kilobytes. It's not a meg anymore. 1.6 megabytes, I think, is what it was at 100. Let's just double check. Now, your numbers are going to be different. So don't think that, oh, I'm off by 0.2. No, you're different colors, different layout, different sizes. But JPEG, 80 quality. And don't change anything else here. Leave it all alone. There's nothing you need to do to change it. We just need to export this thing. So I'm going to click on Export. And I'm going to save it to my folder. I better find my folder. There we go. Simple Photoshop. Whoop, no. First Photoshop project. It can have the same name because they're different file formats. You can maybe put final on here, or your name, or whatever it may be. And I'll export it and save it. And we now have our 2 files, the PSD and the JPEG. So that's your first Photoshop document. I hope you had as much fun as I did. I enjoy Photoshop, as you can see. I hope that you watch the other videos in the simple series that we have going on. And while this is a long video at 50 minutes, we covered a lot in here. We covered a lot of things. In my other videos, we just keep building upon them. I wish we could do this in 5 minutes, but there's a lot of things happening here, and there's a lot of things we have to go through and we have to explain. But in the end, we showed you this is a simple document. There's only 4 objects, and we're using a lot of layer effects and other things in Photoshop. So I hope you found this fun. I hope you found it something that inspires you to do something else and to continue. And I really encourage you to go in, and as Bob Rosso has said, there's happy accidents. It's these things that you just stumble upon sometimes. And don't fear the interface. It's something you'll get used to, and it changes constantly too. So if 5 years from now you're watching this video, your interface might be a little different, but the tools are the same. So we're glad that you were here. We hope you return, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video.